right, so the title of this message is The Timeliness of Y'shua. And we are rapidly approaching the month of Nisan. It falls out on Thursday, March 23rd. And this year it falls within a day or so of the vernal equinox. So, of course, we know that the first day of the month is always sketchy because it has to do with the sighting of the new moon. So astronomically speaking, the first day of spring is marked by the spring equinox, which falls on March 20th this year. And the equinox happens at the same moment worldwide, although the clock times reflect a different time zone. So this date only signals spring's beginning in the northern hemisphere, and it announces fall's arrival in the southern hemisphere. And interestingly, due to time zone differences, there isn't a March 21st equinox in the mainland U.S. during the entire 21st century. So there won't be a March 21st equinox again until 2101. So we understand, according to Genesis 1:14, then God said, "Let lights be in the expanse of the sky for the separating the day from the night. They will be for signs and for seasons, or moed, appointed times, and for days and years." So the astronomical signs in the heavens are to mark unusual portents or omens, but they are also for the seasons, the equinoxes, and the solstices. We look to the month of Nisan for Passover, and we need a viable barley in the field or a beeb to know if it's going to be ripe for the harvest for the first fruits. But because of the traditional calendar that we follow, we tend to celebrate the Jewish New Year in September at Yom Teruah. And we tend to forget that Nisan is the new year. Moses was instructed by Yahweh to begin the new year with Nisan from the time of the Exodus and forward. So with the recent news of banks collapsing and the economic instability, I revisited my dream that the Lord gave me in December of 2021. In the dream, I was driving onto a bridge just suddenly, and there was a lot of traffic. And in front of me was a massive chuck hole. It was at least 18 inches deep. I braked, but I didn't want to fall into the hole with the car, but I eased down into it, and now it was the full length of the bridge. It went down the center of the bridge, and the road was jagged on each side, and everyone was trying slowly to navigate through the jagged edges. There were still smaller potholes within the hole to drive around. It was kind of tricky. So when I woke up and I asked the Lord about the dream, he gave me this word: "You will have to slow down to navigate. There is coming a great economic catastrophe that you will struggle to navigate. This is all deliberate to cripple your country. At the turn of the year, everything will break down very quickly. The supply chain will stop. Prices will go sky high and will be virtually impossible. A bridge is a connecting. It will take you from the America you once knew to the America they have planned for you. It is a bridge you must cross." So, of course, he had given that to me in December of 2021, and so we speculated, is this going to be the new year of 2022? Well, it wasn't. And then I thought about the Jewish New Year in September of 2022, and it wasn't that. And so it wasn't the new year of 2023. But now I have to wonder, with everything that's happening right now with the banks, and the Jewish New Year of Nisan is just a week away, if that isn't the year that he was speaking of. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but we have to pay attention and, just in case it is, and be prepared. I can't tell you, what to do financially, but everybody I've heard has said, make sure you have some cash on hand, because if something happens, you won't be able to access any of the money in your bank. So we've been following the signs in the heavens, the great conjunction of Venus and Jupiter that happened on March 1st and 2nd. It happened very close to Purim, which was on March 6th and 7th. So Jupiter and Venus being the king planet, and Venus the Esther planet, right? The bride of Messiah. I've been revisiting the dreams lately because all of them seem to pinpoint this season between February and April approximately. And this year, Nisan falls within a day of the equinox when there are equal amounts of daylight and nighttime. So the Holy Spirit drew my attention, told me to look at the date that the new year falls on, that Nisan falls on. It was March 23rd. So here's that number 23 again. So number 23 seems to be very significant. Isaiah 23 speaks of the rise of the false prophet Pope. And even the occultists that created the predictive programming CGI film I Pet Goat, they pegged Psalm 23 using graffiti on the school wall to identify the year that certain planned events are going to take place. So this film seems to reveal their schedule of rolling out the events that they are doing that are changing the world into the new world order. This brought me again to a dream that God gave me right at the beginning of the lockdown in 2020. It was April 22nd of 2020. I was at a wedding and people I didn't know were around me. It was the evening before the wedding and everyone was preparing. I saw the tables being set up with favors and last-minute details. I seemed to be dressed as part of the wedding party. I offered to help, and then the scene changed. So just a comment, and I want to add in here that when we set up Passover, the tables in the whole room, I can't tell you how many times the process feels so similar to preparing for a wedding reception. In fact, the gospel reveals that the Last Supper was a betrothal service between Messiah and his prospective bride. So just saying that, that idea of setting up for the wedding could be a hint toward Passover. I was changing out of my garment, and then I think that also is a reference to being changed. That was like the change that Paul spoke of, that we be changed in the twinkling of an eye. Because immediately I was walking back to where I was, and I passed a group of Jewish men. I was going this way, and they were coming this way. These were the guys with the big black hats and black clothes, the Hasidim. I looked down, and I was in the carpenter's shop, and I was walking over huge nails and debris and wood on the floor. I was barefoot, and I wasn't concerned about, harm to my feet. So I think that there was a transformation that had happened. And then I was in a narrow room. It looked to me like, like a storefront church, it was kind of like that, but there was like one long table down the room. It was very small, and it was the Jewish community, and they were getting ready for a celebration, but it wasn't like a family. It was like, like a shul, sort of. There were not many of them. There was just a few. And I didn't see any women. It was only the men. And suddenly a voice came from the adjoining carpenter shop, and there was a loudspeaker on the wall. And the voice in the speaker was really loud, but very distorted. And I knew it was the voice of God, so I kind of leaned in like this in the dream to listen. And then I was walking out of that room, out of the front door, like a regular store kind of door, a glass door. And Chloe was standing there. I still don't know her part in the dream. I looked up her name. Her name means green, or like a green herb. Like, I guess where we get the Greek from chlorophyll, right? Chloe. But she was standing there, and we began to walk away from there together. And she asked me what God had said. And I said, he said, if you want a meaningful first fruits, and then it kind of trailed off. Yeah. I was sharing instruction with her. And then I looked at her and I said, he likes the Jews best. And she gave me a funny look. And I said, well, Yeshua was from Judah. And then I looked down and I was carrying in my hand a bunch of CDs. They were all the same, like a stack of CDs. And the band on the CD was called the Hagiborim. And it was 23 hours, like you would see like 23 hours of music, kind of thing. But just said 23 hours, Hagiborim. And I woke up hearing the words 23 till Hagiborim. So I, racked my brain with this detail and tried to figure out what the 23 hours meant. So I tried to figure out 23 days, 23 months, 23, surely not years, God forbid, 23 years, right? But then I considered that an hour is 60 minutes. So I multiplied the 60 by 23. And I got 1,380. So I went from April 22nd of 2020, which is when I had the dream, and I added 1,380 days. And that took me to February 2nd of 2024, which is on the calendar. And again, it can be give or take a day because, God counts things according to what the Bible says, but man always puts their little thing in there. We're supposed to go by what the new moon is, but it could be a day or so off. So the 23rd of Shabbat is what it falls out on. And again, there's that number 23. So God keeps leading me by 23s, right? So if this is a marker for us to follow, I keep thinking of like those Burma shave, like those road markers. As you go, it tells you more and more and more, right? But if we're to look at these, then perhaps we are looking at, the 23 till the mighty ones, or the Hagiborim, or the Nephilim return. Because Hagiborim, mighty ones, is first mentioned in Genesis 6:4. It's a reference to the Nephilim, or the giants. And so in the dream, I was being shown 23 till Hagiborim. So the Nephilim will come. Perhaps they will come from the sky, or maybe from under the earth, but they are coming. So this date of the 23rd of Shabbat brought me to Zechariah. Now, Zechariah, his name means Yah has remembered. It's an important detail because Zechariah is an end-time book that is a companion for the book of Revelation. Yah is remembered. He has remembered his promises to us to save us from the trial that is coming upon the whole earth. His promises to come and take us to be with him where he is, to change our fragile and mortal bodies into immortal and eternal ones. And he has remembered their rebellion, all of the evil that they have done, all of the blood that they have shed, and every blasphemy that they have uttered. Yah remembers. So in Zechariah chapter 1 at verse 7, on the 24th day of the 11th month, which is the month of Shavat. So this is the day after, right? So that timing took me up to that point. The very next day, Zechariah has this vision. In the 2nd year of Darius, Yahweh's word came to Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo, the prophet, saying, I had a vision in the night, and behold, a man riding on a red horse, and he stood among the myrtle trees that were in a ravine. Behind him were red, brown, and white horses. So this scene tells me that the catching away has already taken place. That timing of 1,380 days brings us right to this verse. The man on the red horse, of course, which signifies war, not war among the nations, but war between the judge of the whole earth and those who have rebelled. It is the Lord who stands in the midst of the myrtle, or the Hadassahs. These are the company of the Esthers. These are this is a parallel to Revelation 14, where the Lamb is standing in the midst of the 144,000 on Mount Zion, or in Jeremiah 31 at verse 22. How long will you go here and there, you backsliding daughter? For Yahweh has created a new thing in the earth. A woman will encompass or surround or encircle a man, and it's not just a man, but a warrior or a man of great strength, a Gibor. So this symbolism is the company of the Neo-Levites that he has chosen, similarly to the Levites that he took after the Exodus in lieu of the firstborn of every household. This is a remnant of the bride that will serve on the earth during the tribulation. I want to make note of some of the names in that verse. Zechariah is the son of Berechiah. His name means the blessing of Yah. And he is the son of Iddo, the prophet. Iddo means timely. So this is about Yah's timing. It is possible that the Lord is telling us the year 2023 because he took us right to the 23rd of Shavat. And we are in 2023. Perhaps he is telling us that this is the time of his blessing poured out upon his people, the blessed hope. If this is what the dream means, then we should be gone before February 2nd of 2024. But this is all about his timing. So one thing that puzzled me greatly, Y'shua said that he would be with us even until the end of the age, meaning the end of the age of Pisces. So the earth has a wobble, and it causes it to shift a little bit more each year. And it takes roughly 2,100 years or so, that's kind of a rounded number, for the earth to shift along the ecliptic from one constellation of the zodiac to the next. And the age will end when the sun is in Aquarius at the vernal equinox. So if this Monday, if the sun was in Aquarius, right now it's in Pisces, it's already come out of Aquarius. But if the sun were in Aquarius, we would say that we had now entered into the age of Aquarius. Science is telling us that it could be 100 to 600 years before the sun is in Aquarius at the vernal equinox. There is no way to know. So I've sought the Lord about this recently, and he began to show me in different ways about shortening time. He drew me to a couple of passages to teach me how he can do this. And somehow the sun has to move into position at the right time. So in Joshua chapter 10, verse 12, then spoke Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, sun, stand still upon Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Ailon. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the nation had avenged themselves of their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Yashar? And the sun stayed in the midst of the heaven, and haste not to go down about a whole day. And there was no day like that before it or after it, that the Lord hearkened unto the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel. So what did the Lord demonstrate for us here? That he is in control of everything, and he can circumvent the laws of nature when it suits him. Is he allowed to do that? Y'shua and Peter both walked on the surface of the water, circumventing the laws of nature. Yahweh caused the sun and the moon to be still. He put them in pause from their normal course of the day and extended the day, and still the world went on without calamity. Then in 2 Kings chapter 20, King Hezekiah was ill and dying, and he sought the Lord for mercy. At verse 8, Hezekiah, which means strengthened of Yah, said to Isaiah, "What will be the sign that Yahweh will heal me, and that I will go up to Yahweh's house the third day?" Now, if that's not a prophetic word right there, I don't know what is. That I will go up to Yahweh's house on the third day. Isaiah said, "This will be the sign to you from Yahweh, that Yahweh will do the thing that he's spoken. Should the shadow go forward 10 degrees, or go back 10 degrees? Hezekiah answered, "It is a light thing for the shadow to go forward 10 degrees. No, let the shadow return backward 10 degrees. Isaiah the prophet cried to Yahweh, and he brought the shadow 10 degrees backward, which it had gone down on the sundial of Ahaz. So what is so interesting is that Yah did these two astronomical miracles regarding the position of the sun, causing it to stand still and then to move backward. And the movement backward in this passage is by 10 degrees. And it's interesting because it's mentioned 5 times. 10 degrees is mentioned 5 times. The precession, as the sun passes through the constellations of the zodiac, is said to move by degrees, 10 degrees at a time. Usually 3 sets of 10 degrees per month. Now, just looking at what we see in the verse, it might suggest that the sun might be moving backward 10 degrees, or even 5 times 10, which could be roughly a month and a half. So what would that mean? Would Yahweh literally move the sun back to its position in Aquarius when it ought to be in Pisces, thus moving us into the age of Aquarius early, shortening the days? No one knows the day or the hour, but he is going to be with us until the end of the age. So either these examples are given to us for a reason, going to do the unexpected, or none of us, not our children's children, are going to see his coming, because if he's not coming till the age of Aquarius, and that could be up to 600 years from now, then I think the likelihood of a miracle here is pretty great. An astrological age is also called a great year. I think this kind of came to me that maybe this is what the verse means when Y'shua stood up and he read in the synagogue from the scroll of Isaiah, and he talked about the year of the Lord's favor. Could it be the great year, meaning the age of Pisces? So that age certainly was the year of favor. It was the age of grace, right? So that is the great year. And the age is determined by the position of the vernal equinox. The vernal equinox is that point in the sky occupied by the sun when it crosses the celestial equator, heading into the northern hemisphere. So you can think of the vernal equinox as a distinct point in the sky, and it's easy to locate on the first day of spring. Just look at where the sun is. That's where it is. But the position of the vernal equinox shifts over time due to the cycle of change in the orientation of the Earth's rotation. So it's not the sun that moves, it's the Earth. So the Earth spins like a top, but it has a gyrating motion, which is called precession. So one complete gyration takes about 26,000 years. So for it to go all through all the signs of the zodiac, it would take 26,000 years. So all of the points in the sky defined by Earth's spinning, the celestial poles and equator and the vernal equinox, they move around the sky over 26,000 years. So when is spring? Flowers are blooming early, and birds are singing early. Spring officially starts March 20th, but meteorologists define spring generally as March, April, and May. However, the signs of spring, like flower blooms and warmer weather, have showed up even earlier. Spring is early across much of the United States, but it's arriving in certain locations even earlier than that. And we've seen it arrive. It's earlier than it's been in the 40 years that they've been keeping data on this. So I have noticed in the last, 2 or 3 years that the songbirds have returned in mid-February. And this is, a couple years now that it's been like that. And it's usually a month that is notoriously cold and snowy. It's been like that most of my life. But in recent years, it's been warmer and drier. And of course, they will attribute this trend to climate change. But what if what they are calling climate change is the Lord shifting us to our climate is actually moving backwards. So we're getting an earlier spring. And that is going to make it so that we can reach the age of Aquarius so much sooner. So he could put the sun in retrograde, so to speak. That has never happened because the sun is a fixed star. It doesn't move, but the earth moves. So if we are shifting more rapidly and spring would come roughly 4 to 6 weeks earlier, which is the trend that we're seeing in the natural signs of spring. So I don't think that we have to be actually in the age of Aquarius for the rapture. Because remember, the Lord said he would be with us until the end of the age, but there are going to be people who remain on the earth in the Great Tribulation who are also saved. And so he's going to be with them too. So I think it's more likely that the end of the age will come either at the end of the 3.5 years of the persecution of believers and the two witnesses, or at the end of the tribulation altogether, but somewhere in that time period, because there has to be a great shift. So he's going to have to move the earth into position, kind of like catch it up real suddenly. And I think that it's possible that to get it into that place will be a great earthquake. And so Revelation 16:18 is found in the seventh bowl judgment. This is after the two witnesses are raised and caught away, which would also include all the tribulation saints, that a terrible earthquake is described in verse 18. There were lightnings, sounds, and thunders, and there was a great earthquake, such as was not since there were men on the earth, so great an earthquake and so mighty. And I'm thinking about that, the Lord just takes this little ball and shifts it back into, the next age. And it would be radical, and that would explain an earthquake like this world has never seen. So it may be possible that this is the point that the Lord literally moves the earth into position for the new age, for the millennial reign. And so this, the millennial reign may be the beginning of the age of Aquarius. So he will do it. He is not waiting for it to naturally happen. And that is why no one knows the timing, or else the world would just wait for it to naturally come about with plenty of advance warning, and they would see the trend of the constellations. So some of, mostly astrologers, that do the occult stuff, they keep saying, oh, we've entered into the age of Aquarius in 2012, but that makes no sense because it has to do with where the sun is in the equinox. So all we can do is gather the clues and the information that Y'shua has given us by his word, through dreams and through prophetic words, and with the Holy Spirit's help, try to piece this puzzle together. So no matter what we know, we are to keep watch for him until he comes. And each year we learn a little bit more and we understand a little bit better. But one year he is going to come, and maybe it's this year. As we pray at Passover next year in New Jerusalem. But since Passover is not here yet, we can still pray this year in New Jerusalem, Lord, please come.